So I just want to give a quick overview of how I approach longer books and how I work my way through them. So the length we're talking about is, that's over 700 pages, things like Canal, Monte, Cristo, Les Miserables, War and Peace, Anna Karenina. With a book that's verging on 1,000 pages, I would recommend reading something alongside it. Something that's less daunting and that you can read just to maintain your habit. Because if you have the book, looking at it and thinking, I've already read 300 pages and I've still got 900 left, what am I doing? Maybe then to ease the pressure is just to read something else. Because there's nothing that said that you have to read that and until you finish, you can read nothing else. It doesn't make it fun. It doesn't make it an enjoyable experience. So just having an out, even if you don't take it, I think can be a really useful thing to do. The problem that then can arise from this is you don't remember where you were. One way to combat that, and I would urge you to look for when you're choosing your editions, is to have one which has chapter summaries at the back. So if you want to read Tolstoy, so either Anna Karenina or War and Peace, I would get the Penguin Clothbound Classics edition. Not only are they attractive and nice books to have, nice books to read, they also have chapter summaries at the back. So if you've been away for a while, you don't remember what's going on, you can just look at the summaries, catch yourself up, and then continue reading. I think that is something that can really streamline the process. I would also, and it might be strange for you to hear this, recommend War and Peace or Anna Karenina as starting points if you've never read a long book before. The reason for this is Tolstoy is such a good writer. It's very readable and the chapters are short, which is probably the most important thing. The chapters are, 3 or 4 pages in length, so you can pick it up and put it down very quickly without worrying that you're going to stop in the middle of the chapter. And the way it's really structured is that you can almost think that 5 or 6 of those chapters encapsulate a story and what would be a chapter in perhaps a more traditional book. I think that's another very attractive thing to look for in a long book, is to look how it's partitioned into the different chapters, the different volumes, the different books, and to choose books which have a lot of partitions, a lot of places where you can stop, and also to set your goals. I just want to finish this volume, this book. I just want to read 6, 7 chapters, and you can have those successes or little wins as often as possible, which is an important thing. You don't want to go into a book where each chapter is 50 pages and you're not having those consistent successes and those consistent moments of, yes, I'm making it through this book, I'm making progress. Between the two, I would recommend Anna Karenina over War and Peace. And while I prefer the setting or the time period of War and Peace, the problem with it is it's got these sort of, let's say, non-fiction moments where Tolstoy just gives his opinion on the events of the Napoleonic Wars, and it then takes you out of the story. I would either recommend that you read Anna Karenina because it has a lot less of that and it is totally story driven, whereas in War and Peace, if you're reading it probably for the first time, I would just say skip that, especially if you don't care about the politics of the Napoleonic era. They become much more frequent towards the end of the book, and you find them a lot in Les Miserables as well. And while they can make it a richer experience, they don't add anything to the plot. You can read the book without them and it doesn't detract at all. So I would recommend that if it's your first time reading a long book, just skip it. The next factor is just a change in mentality of reading goals. And in this case, think of those books as 2 or 3 books. You may spend a couple of months reading it and think, all I've read is 1 book, but that's not fair. It was 1,000 pages. It was a long book. So rewiring yourself to think in terms of pages as opposed to number of books read is a much healthier way of going about this. To be honest, the healthiest option is not to think about it at all and to think about the quality of book that you've read. How much has impacted you, changed you, made you think about the world differently? That is the value of a book. Not having hundreds, thousands of books that you've read, gained nothing from, but yeah, you read them. Cool. So what? That's not what makes reading valuable. That's not why people have valued reading as one of the best hobbies to have and that you can learn from it, because that's the crux. You can learn from it. Anyone can fill a house with books, but that says nothing about you. So don't worry that you're spending so much time on one book. If it's enjoyable to you, if you're finding it worth it, keep reading it. There's nothing worse than falling into competition about how many books you read, because let me tell you, it means nothing. And maybe one of the best pieces of advice from Seneca in his Essay from a Stoic is that you should spend time with one particular author and you should really try and dive in depth and try and understand them. There's no benefit to just reading hundreds of books from hundreds of different authors if you're not really taking anything from them. My last piece of advice is, if you're not enjoying it, just drop it. It's not worth forcing yourself to push through a book that you really don't enjoy. There's nothing wrong with shelving a book, maybe to come back to you later, or maybe to never finish at all. That's fine. It's your book. There's nothing wrong with that. A part of that is to choose books well, find books that fit within the genres that you like, who are recommended by people who have similar taste to you, so you have some idea that it probably is going to be something you'll enjoy as well. But if you're reading it, you're trying to push through, but you just find that it doesn't get any better, let it go. It's not worth it. Sometimes I do like to try and push through a book if it has been recommended by someone I trust, but even then, up to a point. If I buy a book on a whim and I don't enjoy it, then I might be quicker to set it down. But still, if you're 200-300 pages in and it hasn't turned a corner, it's probably not going to get better. Just move on. There will be one that you enjoy. There will be one that you find appealing. And that is what you're looking for, not just force yourself through something. And also raises the question that if a book's not good within the first 200-300 pages, is that really a good book? Those are sort of the mentalities and the mindsets that I try to have when I'm approaching longer books, but also just reading in general. If you've got any suggestions for longer books that you think are worth it, please let me know. I'm always looking for more things to read, although I do have a long TBR already, but I do like to add to it. Aside from that, I'll see you in the next one.